It's just a part of the evolution, just the next step. Citing what was going on in the world around you, writing about it, feeling a part of it, and then giving it away to the world and moving on. It's just a moment in time, but it's like I think it's a good one that I'll look back on fondly. I'm sure I'll be able to criticize it more in a year from now because I'm so close to it today, which is typical. But in a year from now, I think I'll still look back on it rather fondly. I don't think it's hard. You create the art for you, and then when you have the art to sell, then you become the businessman. But until then, nothing is going to push you off of your feelings for what it is you're writing or saying or doing. Case in point, the record company wanted the greatest hits a year ago. I said, thanks for calling, goodbye. I'll let you know when it's done. And it turned into something more. I gave them a studio record, and they'll have the hits next year. You're not going to do things for their timelines and their desire to do any aspect of it. If it's press or the album cover, the CEO, the boss of the bosses, the day before we shot the album cover, which was about 5 days ago, he says the album cover should be "When We Were Beautiful," forget the whole circle thing, blah blah blah. And I looked at the text, I said, thank you, no, at this point, we should be allowed, and we are allowed, to do what we want to do, and you make the decisions, and they're either good or bad. Not that there aren't other good or bad ones out there, but you have to make all the decisions. 25 years has been a long time now. I'm very proud of our accomplishments. Sure, you look back and you see pictures and eras that we were around for, but anybody that's been around that long has those kinds of pictures, and anybody who was in the public eye for that long a period of time went through the look changes. It's okay. It's part of a real career. I'm most proud of the idea that 26 years later, the guys still believe it, and you're still here to talk to us. And the people in Japan are very aware of a new Bon Jovi record coming out. We're not playing some nightclub, we're playing the biggest stadiums there are. So it's just a very proud moment. The only thing that motivates you to keep going is the desire to write the perfect song, which is impossible. You just keep striving to write something more. But the motivation is the world around you. When there was that stagnant period, like I said exactly a year ago, the world was still fat and there was nothing to say, and Richie was getting sober, and so there was nothing, and the divorces with Dave were done, so there was nothing to say, and we just got off the road and there was nothing to say, and so you have to just say every day is a memory if you can see it. And so I had to wait for something else to happen. And like I said, if it wasn't the presidential election, then it was the economy, then it was the Madoff Ponzi scheme, it was people losing their jobs and their lives and their lifestyles. And then you went, boom, there it is, boom, there it is, And it took between October, when this all began, and June for people to hit that place, to the shock to sort to wear off so that they could pick themselves back up, for me to be able to say to Richie, I got one. We weren't born to follow. Look at what's happening to this girl in Iran that stood up, and go to the protest, and her name was Netta, and was shot by the police. And said, look at the people that have been abandoned by the corporate structure in GM and DHL and in America, and these people are getting back up on there. And now you had something to say. The 24th song we wrote, first single. You just got to be able to see it happen. I'm going to perfect the Star Trek transporter, so I just press a button and I'm there. That's going to be big. permanent hair dye, so I don't have to show everyone how gray I'm going. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because I think in your 20s and your 30s, I've said this before, you're trying to build a legacy, something to be, something to say, something to have accomplished. At this time in my life, in my late 40s, I'm looking to leave one. So the music is great, and I love my job, and we do it with a lot of pride. But there's other things too. It's the philanthropy, it's the football, it's family. There's a lot more than just packing a suitcase and being in a rock band. You know, I've seen Japan change a lot in the 26 years since I went to the first time. And I've grown to have such an appreciation. What it's lost in its innocence and more nationalistic approach when the girls would wear the kimonos and the wooden shoes to shows, and there was silence between songs, and there wasn't all the fast food, and it was a much different place in the beginning when I first started going there. It's made up for because it also has progressed and may have become more international, metropolitan, if you will, but also for the better, because there's still such a, what I can tell, with the exception of the language barrier, obviously, is there's still such a respect for the culture, the people respecting each other, the cleanliness in the streets, but yet I've always found it interesting. I see guys and girls that get dressed up to go shopping. Like you don't see that in New York, that you still go in the cabs and there's the white seats and the gloves drivers. But now you have very Western hotels, the Hyatts and those hotels, and the restaurants, you can get anything. And, that's the good and the bad, because you have access to everything as a Westerner, but on the other hand, it's had to evolve in order to keep up with Paris and London and New York. So I enjoy it a lot because I've really understood the appreciation for the people. That's been the constant in my life, is not just the fan base, but the friends that I have there. The honest to God, real friends.